In this lesson 5, we are looking at simplifying polynomials. So this should be a bit of a review for you from grade 10, but we're just going to go through just a reminder of things to watch out for. So remember that a term is a mathematical expression that uses numbers and variables. So the numbers would be the numerical coefficients and the variables are letters. A polynomial is an algebraic expression with one or more terms. So sometimes we name them by the number of terms. For example, a monomial, mono means one, so that means it has one term. Binomial, bi means two, so that means it has two terms. Trinomial, tri means three, so that means it has three terms. Remember that terms are separated by addition and subtraction, and equals if it's an equation. Beyond trinomial, we don't really have a name for that, so we can just say it's a four-term polynomial, and so on. The numerical part, as I mentioned, is called the coefficient, and any letter is called the variable. And if we have a term that does not have a variable, it's called a constant. So terms with the same variables can be added or subtracted together. Those are like terms. And we collect like terms by adding all the like terms in a polynomial together. So if we had 2x and 6y, we could add those together because the variables are exactly the same and they are like terms. So we could add the coefficients. 2 plus 6 is 8, and we would have 8xy. We also classify polynomials by the size of the largest exponent, which would be called the degree. So generally, we like to write our simplified expressions in descending order, which means we start with the highest degree first, and then we go down. If you don't write it in descending order, it's not wrong. It's just that's generally the way you'll see your solutions. They'll be written in descending order, so highest degree first. So we can add or subtract like terms by removing brackets. So remember, we're always going to follow BEDMAS when we are simplifying. So first thing I'm going to do is remove any brackets. There's nothing in front of these brackets, so I'm just going to remove them. And then I'm going to collect like terms. If you want to group them together, that's fine. Just don't change the signs on them. So 3x squared and 2x squared are like terms, so we can add the coefficients. 5x and negative 4x are like terms, so we can add the coefficients. 5 minus 4 is 1. And then negative 7 plus 6 are like terms. They are constant terms, so we can add those together. So negative 7 plus 6 is minus 1. And that is simplified. I have done it in descending order, highest degree first. Okay, in the second example, we are subtracting. So we've got one bracket, subtract another. So just be careful when removing brackets that you apply that negative sign. So subtracting is really just like multiplying by a negative, so make sure you apply that to all terms in the bracket. So negative 2m, a negative and a negative makes that a positive 7n, and a negative and a positive makes a negative. Now I'm going to collect like terms. I have 5m minus 2m are like terms. Negative 3n plus 7n are like terms, and then I just have the minus 4 by itself. Same in this question. I will remove brackets. We're just adding, so the signs will remain the same in the brackets. So positive and a negative is a negative, a positive and a negative is a negative, and a positive is a positive. Then we'll collect like terms. So 5 minus 3 is 2m squared. I might do the n squared next. Negative 10n squared plus 1 is negative 9. And then 7mn and 6mn are like terms, so that leaves me with 1mn. When we are multiplying, we use the distributive property, which says that every term in the bracket gets multiplied by any term before it. So the distributive property, it means you're distributing into the bracket, so I'm multiplying this 3x by all terms. So you multiply the coefficient, so 3 times 4 is 12, and then x times x is x squared. Then we have 3 times 2 is 6, we have an x and a y, and then we have 3 times negative 5 is 15, and we have 1x. And then, so this is the expanding, And then simplify means collect like terms. I don't have any like terms, so I am finished with that question. In this question, we'll apply the distributive property. So the 3a gets multiplied by both terms. And the 2 gets multiplied by both terms. And then we'll collect like terms. We only have 12a squared. Minus 15a plus 8a are like terms, so we'll add those together, and then we've got the minus 10. And then in the last example here, we are multiplying the 2x by all 3 terms in this second bracket. So x times x squared is power 3. And then I'm multiplying the 5 by all 3 terms in this bracket. Just be careful of signs. And then we will collect like terms. I'm doing it in descending order, so I'll put the power 3 first. I'll add the x squares. That's negative 23. 12 and 20 is 32. And then I have the minus 30. So here again, we want to do bedmass. We want to do exponents. We want to do multiplication first. I would suggest that you write out any bracket that's squared. I would suggest that you write it out twice, because sometimes we forget about the middle terms and we only square. So a lot of times I'll see this. I'll see 3a minus 2 squared, and I'll see 9a squared plus 4. And you're forgetting about the middle. So don't forget there are middle terms here. Okay, so I see this 4 in the front. I'm going to leave that to the end. Any coefficient I like to leave to the end and do it at the last part. So we've got 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times 6 is 12, 3 times 5 is 15, and 3 times 6 is 18. And then here, keep this second part in brackets before we apply the negative. So this is like multiplying by negative 1, so we'll leave that to the end. So 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 2 is 6, 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 times 2 is 4. Then I'm going to remove brackets by multiplying the first bracket by 4. You could also collect like terms before you expand. That's entirely up to you. So what's this? 72, and then I'm going to apply this negative 1 to this bracket. So that's a positive, and a negative. And then finally, I'll collect like terms. So we've got 40 minus 9 is 31. Then we have 48 minus 60 plus 12 is 0. So I have no a's left. They add to 0. And then I have negative 72 minus 4 is negative 76. We'll do one more example. You might have 3 brackets, so I would do 2 brackets at a time. Doesn't matter which 2. You could do the first 2 together, you could do the last 2 together. So I'll just do the first 2 together. So 2m times m, 2m times negative 1, then we have a 3m, and a minus 3. Then I might collect like terms before I expand, so I have less things to multiply. So I'll add the negative 2m plus the 3m, and now I'm going to expand these 2 brackets. So we'll multiply 2m by both terms. We'll multiply m by both terms. And we'll multiply 3 by both terms. And then we'll collect like terms. So if the question does not say simplify or collect like terms, it's assumed that you would do it. So whenever it says simplify, it means expand brackets and collect like terms. And there is our final answer. The title's down here, but it should be on. Okay, so I have included a bunch of practice questions here. Next page. So here's a bunch of expanding and simplifying. And then on the last page here are the answers to those questions.